Well, hello, everybody. How
Hello.
are you?
Happy Thursday.
Yeah, good to see you again, as always. Uh, we generally keep our shows a little bit upbeat and a little lighthearted and all, but unfortunately, this one's going to be a little bit more in the serious vein. Um, it's winter time, and for those of you that follow us from the northern part of the United States, you pretty much still have snow and some ice on the ground and all. Uh, we don't. Down here in Texas, it is rare that we get the kind of snow and ice that we just went through. In fact, it's only happened a couple of times since we've been here
Yeah,
in more than a
you
decade.
can count on one hand how many times.
Yes, but having said that, whenever the snow starts to fall, especially in any kind of a quantity, it's like, an invitation, especially for the kids to get outside and throw snowballs and build snowmen and go sledding and go skating on the ponds that have frozen over. And we just recently here, less than a mile from where we live, there was an incident with a young 16-year-old who was driving a Jeep, and he was towing two 16-year-old friends on a sled through his subdivision and was turning a corner, and the sled went sideways, hit a curb. The two young girls were thrown from the sled into a tree, and unfortunately, both did not survive. One was,
One
I
was
think,
killed almost
killed almost
instantly.
instantly when she must have hit the tree. The other
The other one
was
lingered
got a
a few days.
traumatic brain injury and was taken to the hospital and on life support, but died. And so, this was a huge tragedy for our community, especially because it involved, young people. But I think what
And there
it,
was, let me just say, there
yeah,
was no drinking, no drugs involved.
yeah, no, it was just, hey, let's go have some fun, go sledding.
We did get a lot of snow. We got a lot of ice. It was slippery. In fact, I had a friend of mine whose grandson went down on a sled with his parents, right with them. He was about 5 years old and lost control of the sled, and he was on the sled alone, and he went in to a tree, and his face was very much bruised on one side. And this is happening with a lot of the kids. They're just not used to sledding and how to use a sled or how to go
Yeah,
slower.
that's the issue is this, especially when you live in an area where you don't get this kind of weather that often. It's that rush of let's get out and really enjoy it, but not being prepared for it. Yeah, we usually all get prepared putting on jackets and hoodies and gloves and things, but not knowing what the elements are and the conditions are and how to approach it. And and this, honestly, it falls on the shoulders of the parents to make sure that if your kids are going out to explore, if you will, the elements, that you're well prepared. I was when this happened, I kept thinking about what we did as kids.
Mhm.
And I mean, we
Well,
were kind of evil Knievels back then too, because we grew up north, but I grew up in an area where there were just mild hills, although you could travel to get to
but you
what we
could
would
travel
slopes.
to bigger parks that did not have trees that were all safer. And everyone knew that particular park was a place to
Right.
sled.
And I remember traditionally the old sleds were long, about 4 or 5 feet long, and they were
Hmm.
made out of wood, and they had metal rails
Hmm.
on either side. And you were first taught how to sit on it, and there was a way to steer a little bit with your feet, and you would learn how to do that. But that led to that more dangerous aspect of going down on your stomach,
Hmm.
which meant what's at the head of the sled? The head of your body.
Hmm.
so that if you were going to hit a bump or whatever and be thrown, unless you were well protected, and we didn't wear helmets in those days,
No,
even football
no,
helmets or whatever.
nothing.
So,
Knit hats.
this every year this happens,
Look,
and
do they even make wooden sleds?
I'm not
I'm
I'm not
not
so
sure
sure.
because you see the kids sliding down on plastic
Toboggan.
toboggan.
Toboggans took over for the traditional sleds that we
Some
knew.
of them will use their parents, their moms' baking pans. If they have large baking pans, metal pans, because it's slippery.
If there's an old box that you got a widescreen TV on,
Yeah,
you could just take that piece of cardboard box and
yeah.
everything and sit on it and go down a hill.
Hmm.
It's just if you know your limits, you're probably going to be okay. But we also in our area where there are communities that have ponds. The ponds are usually not that deep.
Yeah, 3 feet.
And they freeze over. So the kids think, okay, let's go ice skating or let's go sledding. And there were three young children that were out on a pond in the Dallas area that hit hit an area of weak ice, and they all went into the pond, and all three young children
That
drowned.
that must have been much deeper because most of them are around 3 feet, maybe four,
Yeah,
maybe.
but 3 feet standing up is nothing, but
Right.
3 feet going you know, horizontally and going under ice where panic happens. Plus the fact that in none of these scenarios that we've just mentioned and all were there any adults around. There was no adults
I
watching and
don't.
being around where the children were or anybody else that even other witnesses that would have been there to help and react more quickly.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about the three kids. I'm assuming they were alone.
Yes, they
They
were.
were. They were
Yeah,
definitely
they were. But simple things like and of course, number one is head injuries because you have this tendency of going down head first, or you get thrown from a
alone.
toboggan or a sled
Hmm.
or whatever you're using and all, but and not prepared for it. That I think a lot of states passed helmet laws for kids riding bicycles.
Yeah.
They have that here in the state of Texas. I think they had it in Florida. And it was just a no nonsense, common sense kind of a law that if you're going to go out and play a little bit with danger, at least protect the head.
You know what? We had a lot of wind and a lot of snow and a lot of very, very cold temperatures. And even the adults, when I saw them out shoveling, they don't know protection. They don't know that maybe, well, if I'm going to be out longer than 5 minutes, I should have gloves, I should have hat, should have earmuffs.
Yeah.
And it's dangerous. And,
Well,
and
even
people are not used to it here in the South.
yeah.
They just aren't. They
Yeah.
don't know.
I mean, we were a little more aware of it up north because we would get it year after year after year. But in this case here, we got snow, and it was freezing temperatures. We got the snow, but then the temperatures dropped,
Mhm.
and we got this kind of mixture of sleet and all, and
Right.
it caused a layer of ice on top of the snow. So if you wanted to go out to try and shovel your snow, we literally had to chop the ice to get
You chopped the
yeah
ice,
to,
but I
in
picked
order to
up the
get it.
big pieces. I mean, I was shocked at how thick. I had never seen it even in Chicago, when we
I,
lived in
and,
Chicago.
and and we could look out our window and see people that were, taking their animals out, taking their dogs for a walk, and
Didn't know how.
and the sidewalks were covered with snow and ice and all, and so that created a dangerous situation, not so much for the animals, but for the
But it
people
did
walking.
because unless they have boots for their
Well,
animals,
that's true.
their paws shouldn't be on the ice like that. It's cold.
Yeah. So I mean, the point I think of what we're talking about was that and I do feel very sorry. It was not a smart move on the part of these three 16-year-olds to go out and do what they thought was going to be fun. But this poor young man that was driving the Jeep and everything is they haven't found whether it was anything more than an accident. But this kid's going to have to live with the loss of two
Two
friends
friends for
the
the
rest of
life of
his
him.
life. And the school, which is right around the corner from us, the high
Hmm.
school, and all, has been traumatized at the loss
They
of these
absolutely
two
have.
young girls.
Yeah.
Uh, but it happens over and over again, and we always feel so badly when it happens. But we've always said you have to be more proactive rather than reactive because it's fine to know first aid in case somebody gets hurt and falls and breaks an arm and know how to immobilize. But if you don't plan ahead for what you're going to do, if they had just thought about get some kind of head cover for these two girls that were being pulled on this sled, which
Hmm.
frankly, towing somebody with a car on a sled is probably not a cool idea. You're better off finding a park that's got a hill and
With no trees, because
exactly.
look at what your statistics are. Collisions. 63% of injuries result from crashing into objects like trees, fences, and other hidden obstacles.
Yeah.
My girlfriend said there was even a warming house, a little tiny warming house at the bottom of this hill where her grandson was sledding, and another little girl, younger than him, and he's about 5. She went into that to the house.
Oh,
She
she
slid right into the house.
yeah.
They also say over 9% of injured children suffer traumatic brain injuries, with higher rates in children under 6.
Yeah. You
I
know,
mean, that's high.
sprains and fractures can be taken care of medically and everything, but a
But
traumatic
a
brain injury
brain.
can be lifelong and can be life threatening. And the piece of information that we downloaded, it lists just 6 simple precautions to take. One is wearing helmets, selecting the proper hills,
That's
which is what
crucial.
you said. Make sure that
Hmm.
you're not going through a forest that's filled
Hmm.
with trees.
Hmm.
Positioning. Always know how to position yourself on whatever you're riding.
Hmm.
Steering. The old toboggans and everything.
Yeah.
There was no way to,
And the
to steer
boxes
on
that the kids are
unless you
using,
knew how to, move your
your body.
body a little bit. Supervision. Can't say
Critical.
enough if you're with children, make sure that they are supervised when they're doing it, and also know where you're going sledding and try to avoid ice. Uh,
Well, the number one thing is, I think, the supervision.
yeah,
I think I just
can
don't
you
know where it's gone these days.
can you imagine how the parents
No,
felt
I
knowing that
just,
their
oh,
two young girls were involved in this, and now they probably blame themselves. Why didn't I know what they were doing? Why wasn't I aware? Why wasn't I there?
and during this ice snowstorm that we had, no one could go out. None of our streets were plowed. No one could get out for a week. So most of the parents, unless they had a job they absolutely had to go to, which is possible,
We're home.
they were home.
Yeah.
So very critical.
So our
Our
thoughts and prayers go out to the family of the two young
absolutely.
16-year-old girls. And we hope that maybe what we've said and what you have listened to, you'll pay it forward and always be aware of where your children are when they do go out. Or, this can happen to adults too, because some of us adults think that we're kids.
Yeah.
Again, when you go out to do these kind of things, just be aware of your surroundings and be prepared for what's out there. And if you're not sure, don't do it. Just forget about
Forgot
it.
it.
Make some hot chocolate, sit on a couch and watch a movie. Oh, and come back and see us again next week
Thanks for
because you
joining
can
us.
always do that. Thanks.
Bye.